So basically this is the HBX geothermal overview. So we'll be going over the Eco1000 and the CPU 500 and a few other things like the expansion modules and the Zone 500 as well. So first off, thanks for attending this webinar. We've been starting to use the webinars more and more because we think it's a little bit better way to get in touch with more and more people out there. We can only travel so much. So here we go. So I'm not sure if most of you know about HBX, but HBX is a privately owned company in Canada, actually in Calgary, Alberta. So everything is designed, manufactured, and shipped out of Calgary. So there's nothing that is that we're buying and then repackaging. Everything that HBX is designed by HBX. So we'll just kind of dig right into the Eco1000. So the biggest premise behind our controls, at least the 1000 series, is that they are fully expandable. So the reason we did that is so that we can have smaller systems and larger systems from just a combination of a few different modules. So the Eco1000 is the brains of the unit. So that's the Eco1000. And then to get into larger units, so anything over 2 stages, you would go add EXP100s or EXP300s depending on whether you need dry or wet contacts. So the reason we did this right off the bat was because, well, first of all, there was no geothermal controls on the market. We were the only ones until last year. But basically, all the other styles of controls, when people were using them, they were hooking up, you know, a 262 here. So if I'm just going to use a few Techmar numbers, 262, a 150, you know, few set point controls in the geothermal market, and kind of mishmashing everything together. So we wanted to keep everything together in one control, and that's the reason why we decided to go this route on the controls. So like I said, the Eco1000 is a standalone unit, or you can expand it with expansion modules. So you would expand it with EXP100s, EXP300s, and Zone 500s. So some of the really good features of the Eco1000 is that there's no cross wiring. So you can see down here that when you plug in line neutral ground, you get line neutral ground coming out on the pump outputs, and all of the other inputs are 2 wire, so there's no common ground or common +5 or anything like that. You take your thermostat straight in, you take your thermistors straight in, so you don't have to cross wire. So it's very easy to wire, and also all of the 3-pin connectors, all are all of the connectors are color coded and keyed, so that means that you can't take this red connector and put it in the brown connector spot, or this white one, put it in the black, or this blue in the orange. So it's very easy to, if there is a problem with the control, to take it off the wall and basically replace it with a new one. So we also have onboard set points, so, and fault indicators for geothermal only. So if you hooked up your faults from your geothermal, we could track time and date on there. It also has onboard graphing capabilities, so it's a full graphic display. And then brownout detection. Something we found out very quickly about getting into the geothermal industry is that installations where geothermal is, there is generally a lot of brownouts. So the problem is the geothermal equipment is very, very, very heavy on the lines, so it can actually drag the voltage down in the house or the particular application where it's at, and it can cause processors, electronics, and things to kind of freak out a little bit. So there is brownout detection built in there now, so the control will just reset itself if that happens. Same sort of thing as if you have backup generators and things like that. They cause brownouts in electrical systems as well. Oops. So when you first boot up the control, because the Eco1000 is also a solar control, you will see choose control type. So choose geothermal for geothermal applications. You will also see a version number when it comes up. So if you phone in for troubleshooting, this is one of the things that will ask you what version is the control. So we've been sending out version 1.26 for the last 2.5 years. So also with the buttons A, B, C, and D, we get a lot of questions why we just didn't put an up arrow, a down arrow, an enter, and a programming, because we originally didn't know how many controls we were going to be able to put into one. We also use these buttons for our boiler controls and mixing controls. So we ended up with A, B, C, and D, not knowing how many controls we'd build, but it turns out that we could have actually put the up, down, enter, and the programming. So, but that's how it is. So, like I said before, when we were working on the geothermal stuff, we worked with people that were in geothermal. We worked with a few guys that were from Europe, so they had been doing geothermal for years and years. So we worked with them to see what they needed on a control to be able to work well with geothermal systems. One of the big things was they needed to see a lot of information at once. So we could see tank temperatures, we can see targets, we can see ground loop temperatures, we can see outdoor temperatures if we've got extra set points. We can see whether there's a heat demand, whether there's a cooling demand, whether we have a warm weather shutdown or a cold weather shutdown. Also on the system function screen, we can see the system pumps, the heat pumps, whether the backup's on, how many cycles the backup has been through or the pumps have been through, so you can get a very, very good indication of what is going on in one or two screens, unlike other controls where you have to cycle through different screens to find what is going on with the with everything in the application. So the expansion modules, the EXP100 and the EXP300, work in conjunction with the Eco1000. They don't work on their own. They need a brain to tell them what to do, basically. So the EXP100 basically is to expand your number of stages. So if you had a 4-stage geothermal application, you would use an Eco1000 and one EXP100. The EXP300 is wet contacts. So if you needed to expand your pumping capabilities, you wanted to use maybe the pumps for the heat pumps, you wanted to run the circulators. If they weren't 120, then you would want to run them from the heat pumps. But if they were 120, then you can actually run them from the Eco1000. So this would give you post-purge applications. This would turn on completely when only the heat pump's running. So there's lots of different pumping scenarios that you can actually do with the Eco1000. Also, inside the Eco1000, just by itself, there's there's 2 pump outputs and a reversing valve output. So those 2 pump outputs can be used for either system pumps or they can be used for tank pumps. So you could actually have a cold tank pump and a hot tank pump if you wanted to. So like I said, the EXP100 is used for dry contacts and the EXP300 is used for wet contacts. 2 relays per module. There is actually an extra thermistor input on the modules as well. So once you add an EXP, you have the option to add an extra thermistor. So you could look at anything else in the system if you wanted to, or you could even add a set point to do maybe domestic hot water with or something like that. So the Zone 500, one thing we will get into the geothermal applications and let you know what it can and can't do on a lot of applications. So one thing that when we designed the Zone 500 was we knew that it could work very, very well in the geothermal industry. So the Zone 500 is either a standalone unit or it is actually able to connect to the Eco1000. So it has 4 zones built onto it, expandable up to 36. We just kind of threw out a number that we thought nobody would be able to do. It has pump contacts on the bottom. So you can also do either pump outputs for your zones or valve outputs for your zones. So it has a zone power input, whatever power you put into there, whether that's 24 or 120, that's what comes out of the zones. So for geothermal, we also have some very good features built in for zone protection. So some of the problems when you're running two tank systems is that you can have cooling zones open when the tanks are hot or the tank is hot, or you can have hot zones open when the tank is cold. So we put protection features in there so that if your tank is warm and you have a cold zone open, it won't allow that cold zone to actually turn on until that tank cools off. Likewise, it won't allow zones that are in heating mode to turn on if the control is in warm weather shutdown. So it also saves power, and it makes it so that you're not sending the wrong temperature water out to the zone, out to the different zones. So this is a big feature that nobody else has on the market, and you get that when you attach the Zone 500 to the Eco1000. And when you attach the Zone 500 to the Eco1000 with the 32-pin connector, all the demand signals go across. So on the back of the module, you can pick either heating zones or cooling zones. And there's also some special features in there for single or two-pipe systems or four-pipe systems. So there's been some stuff specifically designed. I know a couple guys here are from Enertech, so we've actually worked in conjunction with Enertech on a few different things to add some features to this control. So, and those work in conjunction with the Zone 500. So like I said, we work a lot with industry to make sure that we get features in there that are going to make their life easier and make it so that we can sell more, basically. So you can also have different priority options. So you could have basically like a domestic hot water priority or a high temp priority. So if Zone 1 came on, it would shut off all the other zones. You also have a Zone 1 and 2 prioritized over Zone 3 and 4. And you also can have a module over module priority. So you could have all your cooling zones on one Zone 500 and all your heating zones on another Zone 500, and you can actually lock out your heating zones when any cooling zones come on. So it depends on how you pipe your systems to depend on what kind of priorities you would like in the system. But there is a lot of different options there for different priorities. So this is just the wiring for the Zone 500. One thing I will add here is that we have upgraded the Zone 500 that will be coming out very soon. So the big difference between the old Zone 500 and the new Zone 500 is that the old Zone 500 is a dry only in the thermostat input. The new Zone 500 is either dry or 24 volt input. So now you don't need any isolation relays if you needed it. We also have two more demand outputs. So we have a heating demand and a cooling demand. So if you're using it with a CPU 500, you can wire directly from the demand outputs on here to the demand inputs on the CPU 500. We still have the system pump output, and all of the zone outputs are all the same on the new version. But like I said, we've added the 24 VAC thermostat inputs as well as two more demand outputs. So, and that'll be out basically in probably 6 weeks. So this just shows a lot of the priorities. So we had kind of talked about that, where we can have 2-pipe or 4-pipe air handler systems. We've got sequential priorities, so that's 1 is prioritized over 2, 2 is prioritized over 3, 3 is prioritized over 4. We also have 1, 2 over 3, 4, and then module over module priority. So we also have pump post-purge if you want to. One of the things we did in our manual, because people found it hard to read which is up and which is down on the dip switches, is we had to draw all the dips in 3D. So we learned very quickly that to alleviate a lot of calls, make your manual as clear and concise as possible. So we are constantly upgrading our manuals and adding additions to the control to make everybody's life easier. So if we make it easy for you guys, then we don't get 100 calls a day on geothermal stuff. So, and then you find it easier to use our product, you use more of it, and everybody's happy. So the Eco applications, the Eco1000 can do up to 14 stages. So these can be 7 two-stage units or 14 individual units. So we can do single or dual tank systems. So we can have a single tank that does hot and cold, or we could have two tanks, one doing heating, one doing cooling. We have an outdoor reset on the hot tank, so basically the reason we put that on there is because geothermal is generally put in for energy savings. So if your house only needs 90-degree water, then there's no point in putting 110-degree water in the tank. So we put a reset curve on there to drastically decrease the the use on the heat pump. You guys know, as the heat pump needs to put in hotter and hotter water, that heat pump has to work harder and harder, so your COPs go down. So we basically have that outdoor reset in there for energy savings. So a lot of guys use it, and a lot of guys love it. So we also run the reversing valve and or the diverting valves. Lots of different pumping options. So we've got very specific air handler and radiant pumping options. Warm weather shutdown, cold weather shutdown. Auto rotation on time or cycle. So this is one of the newer features that we put in. So the Eco1000 rotates the heat pumps on time. So when heat pump 1 has ran for 48 hours longer than heat pump 2, it will rotate those heat pumps. Or you can set a number of cycles that you'd like in there. So if you set the number of cycles to be 10, every 10 cycles that once heat pump 1 gets to 10 cycles, then it will actually switch. Heat pump 2 is now the lead heat pump. So we put that in there because a lot of guys were wanting that feature, so we put it in there. There's also backup options, so we can run either boiler backup or electric backup. It doesn't really matter. So you can back up on outdoor temperature, you can back up on tank temperature. We've got lots of different backup options built into the control. We also have 3 extra set points, so you can use one of these set points for a domestic hot water tank, you can use them for a hot tub, you can use them for a pool. So these are in addition to the running set points of the normal Eco1000. So this is just a quick example of a two-stage heat pump running a single hot and cold tank, and here's our load here. So you can see that we're running this tank, we're running the heat pumps, and this is just off a single geo control. A little bit bigger system, so once again 2 heat pumps again. We're running a diverting valve between the, in this case this is a domestic preheat tank and a heating and cooling buffer tank. This is a bigger system, so we've got 3 heat pumps, hot tank, cold tank. We even threw a set point of a pool in here so that you can prioritize this pool in the whole thing. Oh, and this one actually has a backup on it as well. Once again, even bigger system. You can see that the controls are lining up on the wall quite big. So we've got 5 modules attached to this. So this is actually an 8-stage heat pump system with a single tank with a boiler backup and a pool on a set point. So this is an actual application that we did at a swimming pool. So that's it on the Eco1000. I will just wait a couple seconds just in case anybody has a question on any of the 1000 stuff, and then we'll move on to the CPU 500 stuff. Or you can also ask questions about the 1000 after or during the 500 part as well. So it doesn't look like any questions are popping up. Either I'm doing a really good job or nobody's listening. So one of the two has to be true. So anyways, the CPU 500 is basically the commodity style control of an Eco1000. So it has a few less features in hardware. As far as software, it can do all of the stuff that the Eco1000 can do. So the CPU 500 has 5 different modes on it. It has boiler mode, mixing mode, differential mode, Eco mode, and a pump sequencer. So when you use the CPU 500 for the Eco, you got to make sure that you pick it for Eco mode when you get the control. So it can do heat pumps or chillers, can do up to 2 stages. So this is 2 heat pumps or 1 heat pump plus a backup. It can also do the single or dual tank system, runs the reversing and or diverting valves, also has cold weather shutdown, warm weather shutdown. The outdoor reset is still on the hot tank, has backup options just like the Eco 1000, and it rotates on time or cycles just like the 1000. So the biggest difference between this and the 1000 obviously is the display and interface, as well as it's non-expandable. It can only do up to two units. At the end of the presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the new CPU 500 that has a couple extra things that are going to be built onto it that is going into production ASAP as well. So it's one thing that we like to do is not just keep with the same products forever. We like to improve the products that we have, and if we can see that we can drastically improve by bringing in a new product or replacing an old product with new technology, then we will consistently do that. So you can see that it's a little bit different. It's got 2 inputs, dry contact inputs. This shows a boiler, but that's where the heat pump would be hooked up. Sensor inputs, outdoor sensor, pumps. This can either be the second heat pump or the backup. It just kind of shows what can be hooked up to the control. So, like I said, one of the big differences between this is the interface. Between this and the 1000 is the interface. So this only shows one temperature at a time or one thing at a time. So when you bring it up, it'll be in status mode. If you want to go into set mode, it'll show the little set indicator. It'll show heating or cooling, the number of stages that are on, 1 or 2. It'll show you obviously excuse me, temperatures. Shows you cold weather shutdown, warm weather shutdown. One other neat little feature of the CPU 500 is that that it will go dark blue when it's in cooling mode, red when it's in heating mode, green when it's satisfied, and white basically when there's no demand there. So it gives you a quick visual indication of what's going on from across the room, or wherever you can look at it from. So one thing that when you do phone in, we will ask you the color of the CPU 500 because it lets us know what mode it's in and how the control is acting at that time. So this is just a little drawing, mechanical drawing of the CPU 500 in the 2-stage with 2 tanks. So 2-stage heat pump with 2 tanks. We're running the 2-position valve. Obviously, that's to switch between heating and cooling, and we're running the reversing valve as well. So we've got a THM 200 attached to it. THM 200 does heating and cooling at the same time, so it's a good piece to put with the CPU 500 and the Eco 1000. This is just a smaller application, obviously 2-stage heat pump and a single tank application. We've had a few applications where we're running a differential set point off of a VFD. So this could be a Stratus or a Magna pump. So basically we want a certain delta T across the ground loop. On the new CPU 500, we actually have a cooling differential and a heating differential, so that you'll be able to switch between differentials going into the heat pump based on whether you're doing a heating call or a cooling call, and it has a 1 to 10 volt output that goes to the VFD or goes straight to the pump. So that's the CPU 500. Like I say, a lot of the features on the 1000 are built into the 500. The 500 is just a smaller control that can do less, basically hardware-wise, not software-wise. So if you guys got any questions, just throw them up, and I'll say them out loud, and then we can answer them for you. Okay, we got one question that came in. Is the VFD being powered from the 500? So in that application, the VFD would be getting a 1 to 10 volt signal from the CPU 500. So the CPU 500, it has a set of contacts on there to send 110 to the VFD as well as the 1 to 10 volt output, but we will be just running the 1 to 10 volt output on the VFD. So the Stratus, the Welo Stratus pump takes a 1 to 10 volt input. The Grundfos Magna pump takes a 1 to 10 volt input. So that's mostly what it's designed for. And like I said, on the new CPU 500, you'll be able to set up a cooling differential and a heating differential. On the CPU 500 at present, you can only set up one differential. So that's only you would set up 8 degrees or 5 degrees, whatever you wanted, and that would be for heating and cooling. But the new CPU 500, you can do both. So hopefully that answers your question. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the THMs. Oh, hang on. Another question. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm glad that answered your question. Thanks. So the THMs, the THM 100 and the THM 200. So these work very well in conjunction with our zone controls. Obviously, we build our own equipment to work very well with other pieces of our own equipment. So the THM 100 is a non-programmable single heating or single cooling. So it's not an AND. It only has one relay output basically on it. So one of the big differences between our thermostats and most other thermostats on the market is that they are true PID radiant thermostats. So a lot of other guys are just PI controls, and they don't have the derivative, which is the most important portion on radiant controls too, because that does the anticipation of the slab heating up and the slab cooling down so that you can basically work properly with radiant systems. So it also comes with 10-foot lead on the sensor, so the sensor is included with the thermostat. So you can also do air sensing and floor sensing at the same time, so it can do floor warming and keep the air at a certain temperature as well. So it has a very large full graphic display, removable faceplate, 24 volt input. So the THM 200 is a fully programmable heating cooling stat. So it's a 5 and 2 programming situation, and it has 3 relays on it. So what this allows you to do is either heating and cooling, or you can do 2-stage heating plus single cooling, or 2-stage cooling plus heating, but it also has an intermittent fan control built onto it. So what this allows you to do is you could have it hooked up to a fan coil for heating and the fan coil for cooling, and you could have it hooked up to the fan, and you can set this thermostat to basically work like an HRV. So it could turn on the fan for 10 minutes every hour, so you could have circulation, or you could turn it on for 2 minutes every 5 hours. So there's some very good variability in there so that you can set this up to run like an HRV in that case. So it has the 2 amp dry contact, so you can actually run 120 volt devices from this. So it's rated for 120 at 2 amps. So you could put small pumps on there. So if you used it as a set point control, which you can, I'll just go to the next screen. You can use the THM 100 as a single set point as well. So it replaces a 507, 508, 509 in thermostat mode, but it also replaces the 150 in set point mode. So we have a lot of guys using this in geothermal just to run a set point here or there if they need it out, so that they can use the CPU 500, and if they needed an extra set point, they could just use the THM 100 in set point mode. So it has lag times built in, differential around your set point, whether you want a heating set point or a cooling set point. It's very versatile, even in the set point mode. So when you buy the THM 100, you just go into the programming screen and let it know that you want it to just be a set point and not run as a regular thermostat. So same as the THM 200, the THM 200 actually has a single stage outdoor reset control built onto it. But we had a lot of guys not knowing that, so we actually built a product called the ORC 100, so an outdoor reset control. So it's basically the THM 200 that comes with an outdoor air sensor as well as a strap-on sensor, so that we've had a lot of geothermal guys use them if they're just running a single stage unit with a hot tank. So they can have a reset schedule on their hot tank and a very, very simple control to use on that. You would use it instead of aquastats or single stage aquastats, things like that. So both of these controls can actually eliminate all of your aquastats in your system, and you will find out that the price point that these are at makes it so that you will want to change from a regular mechanical aquastat to get it something electronic. So the THM 200 replaces the 510, 511, and 512, as well as a 256. So like I said, it's got a single stage outdoor reset control built into it, which is the 256. But like I said, if you wanted that, you could just get the ORC 100, and that does come with the outdoor sensor as well. So a little bit about the CIS software. The CIS software works with the Eco1000. So what that allows you to do is you can connect anywhere. Gives you real-time logging, gives you system status, gives you some alarms if you're connected, some remote programming. So any parameter that you can set up on the control locally, you could set up remotely with this. So it's a lot of times the geo systems are out in the middle of nowhere, so it takes a couple hours to get there. So instead of driving out and readjusting settings, you can actually use the CIS software and adjust those settings from your computer. Has a quick load feature for the settings, history retrieval, like it shows here, full graphic display, plotting on there. So you can use this program locally, so you could just plug into the unit while you're there, or you can actually, if you wanted, you get a CIS 300, which is just an Ethernet modem that gets this unit on the internet basically, and then you connect with your computer over the internet to the Eco1000. So a little bit about, we've got some designer software. Basically you can use this to help design the system. So you would go into geothermal and it would start to give you a summary of the controls you need. It would show you how it's going to be laid out, and it can also give you a drawing of the control if we have it. And if we don't, it'll actually pop up and it'll say, do you want to send HBX to request for a drawing? And you would say yes, and it would send us the drawing request, and we would get that to you within 2 days. So that's a free chunk of software. Also, the CIS is also a free chunk of software, just in case you wanted it. You do have to buy the cables, or if you wanted the internet capabilities, then you got to buy the CIS 300. But the software itself is free. The designer software comes with some outdoor reset tools just to help you design your heating curves. This says Q2 release date, but we've actually released it now because we're in Q3. So what this is a wireless outdoor sensor. So it comes in two parts. It comes with an outdoor sensor that's battery operated off 2 AA batteries. You would put that outside, and it comes with an indoor portion that you would power up with 24 volts, and then there's 2 pins that you would connect directly to your thermostat input on any control. So you can use this on a Tecmar control, you could use this on boilers, you could use this on heat pumps for an outdoor sensor. It will work with anybody's controls. So basically this section here mimics a thermistor. So you would directly tie this into your thermistor input on your device. So what this allows you to do is basically, if you can't get an outdoor sensor to somewhere, or it's a retrofit where you want to put an outdoor sensor on after, this is a very good device to do that. So it comes with different thermistor options, so a 500 ohm thermistor curve, a 5K thermistor curve, 10K and 20K thermistor curve. So 2,000 feet in open air, 2 AA's is a minimum of 2 years. Temperature range is -20 to 225. It's got proprietary pairing and communication with ours. You don't need any electrician because it's all low voltage. Very simple and easy to pair, and it gives you a battery indicator on the indoor unit whether the battery's dying on the outside or not. It'll also give you signal strength indication on the signal input, or sorry, output on the indoor unit. So it's very good unit. This is the introduction to our whole wireless our whole set of wireless controls. So over the next year we'll be rolling out new wireless controls that are very simple to use. We basically just rolled this out to get people familiar with our wireless systems. So it's an introductory product to our wireless system. So a couple little things that are upcoming, like I talked about the new Zone 500. It'll have that system pump contact and two TT contacts. So one heat demand and one cool demand. So the rest of it will be pretty much the same, and that'll be coming out right away. That's actually just being sent off for approvals today, so production should be in about 6 weeks on that unit. The CPU 500, as you can see, we're going to be designing a new enclosure, so it's going to add one more relay. So what does that mean for geothermal guys? It means now we can have 2 stages plus a backup, so 3 relays in total. So this will shift a few more people away from the Eco1000 and into the new CPU 500 because it has that extra contact for that backup. Because a lot of installations now we're finding just have a single 2-stage geo unit and a backup of some sort. So this gets you into those applications without a problem. So price point is going to be basically the same as where the CPU 500 is right now as well. So it's going to have buttons instead of a dial. So the interface is going to be pretty much the same as the THM 100 and 200 with the full graphic display and then 3 buttons down at the bottom as well. So that's it. That is the quick overview of the Eco1000 and the CPU 500 and a few other products. If you guys have any questions, I'll stick around for a couple minutes and you can either ask them or we can we're going to be having other geothermal webinars as well. So thank you guys for coming and listening, and hopefully I answered a lot of your questions and alleviated any things you might have with the HBX geothermal controls, and hopefully you guys can use them in more applications, and I've showed you different places that you can use them in more applications. So we have one question. So it says, how can we get a copy of an HBX geothermal manual? If you go to the website, we have a very good section in the resources. So if you go to the resources, it'll show you, you go into the Eco portion, and then you can download any manual that you want in there. Second question is, can we get a manual or wiring diagrams? We can get you, I can actually give you all of our stencils if you would like them, and all of our wiring diagrams that we do for the Eco stuff. If you just want to shoot us an email, we can get you that at any point. There is also diagrams on the website and in the manual, and if you wanted us to do something special for you, we don't have a problem doing that. We do wiring diagrams for all of our customers all of the time. So hopefully that answers your questions. You can give me an email. You can email me at Curtis, CURTIS, at HBXcontrols.com, and I can get you all that information. But like I said, the website has a lot of good features built onto it, and we are redoing the website. We're going to be putting a lot of videos on there on how to use the CPU 500, how to program really quickly for this control and that control. So we're constant, like I said, we're constantly improving the way that we do business, so that we can service you guys better. So hopefully that answers your questions. So if there's no other questions, like I said, thank you guys for coming and listening. Oh, yeah, thank you, no problem. So you can email us anytime, phone in anytime. We are here to help you guys. The more we can help you, the more you can sell. So thank you guys again for attending, and hopefully you can use a lot of our stuff in your applications. Talk to you guys later. Thank you.